What's the most fucked up thing a guest did in your house? I was the guest at my sister's house. We were getting really drunk with her husband, and her husband's friend. I needed to pee, and her husband told me to go pee in the bush behind his garage. So I stumbled over there and whipped out my junk and began to take the longest piss of my life. About 4 seconds in, I heard a sound coming towards me. It was my sister's big, dumb, beautiful golden retriever. Jasper, the dog, is a real attention escort. Apparently, he wanted to get my attention while I was peeing, so he ran under the stream and tried to roll around in it. I pinched off the stream at great personal peril and spun around 180 degrees and let the stream go. Jasper thought this was a new game. He ran around me and started playing in the stream again. In my drunken state, I started to aim off to the sides, but Jasper was not as drunk as I was. He reacted to my evasive maneuvers much quicker than I expected. He bit at the stream and frolicked in it until my bladder was empty. Then, with a big dumb grin on his face, Jasper ran back to my sister. I had to follow him and tell everyone not to touch the dog because he had just been playing water sports. My brother-in-law's friend laughed so hard, he nearly fell into the fire pit. The dog got bathed and couldn't have been happier. My sister was mortified. Her husband thought it was hilarious. Story 2. My parents bought a full-size terracotta soldier that they had shipped home when they were visiting China. About a year later, when my parents weren't home, my grandpa painted it solid gray because he thought it looked worn and dated. Story 3. I was at a party, and I hear the host yell, "Who threw up on my dog?" Dog was a shepherd mix, a bit stout, so he was walking around with a puddle of puke on his back like it was a saddle. Story 4. After my mom passed away, her elderly friend came to visit. She asked me for wine. She pounded back 4 glasses. Then she whipped out a handful of sleeping pills and downed those. I freaked out. She said she did it all the time. She then proceeded to fall off the chair. She tried going upstairs and started to fall. I caught her and half carried her to bed. I heard her fall hard on the floor. She was laughing and delirious. She was 74. I wanted to call an ambulance, but she flat out refused. I put her back in bed. Rinse and repeat 3 times. The next morning, I asked if she had other friends she could stay with. I drove her to them. Story 5. This was at my grandmother's funeral. She was a well-known lady. So many people came to her funeral. What happened while we were all grieving was a bunch of people decided to steal a whole bunch of random crap. All our plates, cups, cooking utensils, bags of rice, medicine, etc. All gone. Story 6. Almost every time my mom came to my house, she did something ducked up. She would break things or decide something needed fixing and call up whatever repair or service person was and then just present me with the bill when I came home from work. She flooded my kitchen once, which leaked out all over my living room and warped my hardwood floors. I came home once and she had repainted my kitchen. But the worst was when she left candles burning and we woke up to my living room in flames. Almost hit us both. I live in Asia now, in a small studio apartment. So even when she comes to Asia, which has only happened once so far, she can't stay in my home. Story 7. He was sleeping over, and in the middle of the night, I see this dude punishing the crap out of his junk. I swear this dude sent it to the ducking shadow realm. Story 8. When I was in high school, I was having a party at my parents' house when they were out of town. My buddy Derek was not feeling well and really needed to take a dump. Apparently all of the bathrooms were occupied at the time of the emergency, so he ran into the garage, pulled his pants down, and diarrheaed all over the garage floor. Story 9. When I was young, I was in Cub Scouts, and we decided to build all our Pinewood Derby cars at my house one year. So my whole little crew comes over, including this kind of wired dude named Ricky. After about an hour of building, Ricky goes into the bathroom for like an hour, and then leaves the bathroom, says goodbye, without slowing down and walks out the front door and gets picked up by his dad outside. My dad was kind of like WTF, so he goes and looks at the bathroom and goddamn, there was tiny little crafty fingerprints on literally every surface of our bathroom. Like seat, handle, toilet paper, walls, sink handles, soap bar, goddamn everything. And yes, we had to clean all that crap up, but Ricky ended up with the nickname Banani Crap Prince. So joke's on him, I guess. Story 10 happened to a friend. When we were younger, this kid came over to his house and took a crap and didn't flush or use toilet paper. Then, a few weeks later, when my friend went over to his house, he was going to return the favor. But lo and behold, there was already a turd waiting for him. Story 11. I had a friend that spent the night over at my house when I was 9. She accidentally crapped her pants overnight, but instead of going to the bathroom, she just took her underwear off and threw it under my bed. After she left, my mom told me my room smelled terrible, and she couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Eventually, we found her dirty, poopy panties under my bed. After that, she was no longer allowed to stay over. Eventually, she invited me to her place for a sleepover. Since she only had one bed, we had to share it. I woke up in the middle of the night, soaking wet and freezing cold, because she had wet the bed and me. I had to lay in that bed all night, just hoping that morning would come soon so I could get up and take a bath. Story 12. A girl came over during a party. She'd obviously had a few drinks. First, she tried making out with me, which I'm generally in favor of, but she was trashed and could hardly walk, so we set her on a couch. She didn't stay there, though. She took one of the hockey sweaters I hang on the wall, put it on, and sat on the floor, banging her hands and singing to whatever song was on. It was obnoxious, but harmless, and thankfully she stopped because a few minutes later, she pukes all over my sweater, herself, and the floor. Not great. We get her to the bathroom, where she promptly passes out, which is generally a good spot to do so, except when it's 10 p.m. and people are still coming over, and there's one bathroom in the place. We eventually just unlock the door, find her sleeping naked in the bathtub in her own puke, happy as duck, thanking us for inviting her, etc. We left her there, drew the shower curtain, and she either passed out or got to hear everyone piss for the night. She woke up at around 4 a.m. and climbed into my bed, where I was blissfully sleeping. Keyword was. Had to call her a cab and pay him up front because, shockingly, she lost everything she owns in someone's car. Then I got to throw my sheets and blankets in the laundry and sleep on the couch. We're still friends. She's apologized plenty, but that wasn't a good night for her story. There was this kid who lived around the block that would come over sometimes. Well, one day he found some lemonade mix and decided the best thing to do with it was to dump it all on the ground, use the sink nozzle to get the floor wet, and turn the kitchen into a skating rink. Why the lemonade mix was necessary, I have no idea. But that was a really fun day until my parents came home. Story 14. This a hole kept the faucet running overnight in a plugged-up drain. Drain was plugged because it had been cleaned by the owner earlier in the day, and woke up to see water pouring through the light fixtures in the basement. The owners were my parents, and the guest was me. Story 15. Friend living in Europe came to us to visit family. Her husband was here for a couple of weeks, but went back to Europe for work while she stayed with us for the summer. Unbeknownst to us, she had stopped taking her medications and started racking up long-distance phone calls to Europe in the middle of the night, early morning, to talk to her husband. But if she called his office and he wasn't there, she would just ask to be put on hold until he returned to the office. Received a $3,000 phone bill and realized what had happened. Thankfully, our phone company at the time listened to my story and agreed not only to set us up with an international plan to call Europe cheaply, but they made it retroactive to when she started staying with us. $3,000 became less than $200. Story 16. Had a party with 8 friends. After they left, I went to the hall bath and noticed the hand towel missing. I looked on the floor and noticed crap smeared into the grout. Then I looked at the toilet and realized crap was smeared in swirls all over the side of the toilet closest to the wall. I don't know what happened and never did find the hand towel. Gross. Story 17. She got up at 3 a.m. on a ducking Wednesday and proceeded to make special stew. Special stew was literally every single meat from our freezer, water, and ketchup. Oh, and not to mention, she sobbed loudly while doing this. Also broke 3 knives trying to chop a frozen ham. Damn you, Leanne. I'd also like to give an honorable mention to the guests that tried to kill my cat. Duck you guys too, Josh and Weslin. Story 18. We have a backup key hidden somewhere outside the house. Once, my sister locked herself out while with some friends, so she got the backup key, and so her friends knew where the key was hidden. Flash forward some time, and we are coming home after going on vacation, and we find our house was broken into. Nothing was stolen, but all the furniture was flipped upside down. Turns out my sister's friends did it as a prank. In retrospect, it is fairly funny, but my parents flipped crap over it. Story 19. Let their kid crap on my deck and then not use bleach to clean it, and then argued with me when I used bleach to clean it, and then got offended that I argued with them about the cleanliness of their kids' crap. Their anti-vaccination stance should have tipped me off. Story 20. Let a guy I knew from college stay in my house for a few months because he kept grinning about how his parents don't let him do anything. And I figured one more person paying rent wouldn't hurt. When he moved out, with about a week's notice, I was forced to clean 8 months of jizz stains from the wall where his desk used to be. Story 21. My 2 bonehead friends were at a party at my house this past Halloween. This was a brand new house with all new crap in it. I noticed them go missing for a while and went to go check to make sure they were okay. I go to the room where we were keeping all the jackets and I notice the door is locked. I hear 2 people giggling, so normally I would think someone was hooking up or something, but all the women were accounted for. So I get the keys out to open the door and the giggling gets louder, and the second I unlock the door, it quickly locks again. Then it happened. The ground starts rumbling and I hear, "For the Shiri!" Kaboom! These 2 duckers, idiots, break down my door in my brand new house and I'm on the other side. I got ducking crushed. I was also holding a beer which got smashed. These guys are going to be in my wedding party this year. They bought me a new door and trim and installed it all. My fiance didn't talk to them for weeks, and she was mad at me too. Ducking guys. Story 22. Years ago, my old housemate's mom came to visit. I'd just done a 14-hour shift in the pub I was working in at the time. I came home to find her in the kitchen, off her face in her tights, surrounded by broken glass on the floor and eating my cereal from the bag. She'd smashed all the wine glasses. She was a counselor for the Tory party too. Housemate had passed out, so had to deal with this wreck of a woman who I'd never met before. Story 23. My brother-in-law came to stay at my flat and bought his friend who didn't like dogs and was allergic to them. No problem, although I told him that was the dog's home and he'd have to live with it. But I'd try and keep the dog away from him as much as I could. I was in the kitchen and I heard him saying, "Duck off, no, go away." So I guess the dog was doing that thing that dogs do when faced with someone who doesn't like dogs, not leave them alone. I started to go into the front room to grab the dog and I heard a heavy thunk sound and my dog yelped and scooted past me. The ducker had kicked my dog. I grabbed him by the front of his shirt, dragged him to the front door, threw him out, and told him that he wasn't welcome in my home. Story 24. I had a house party in college that was broken up by the cops. When the red and blue lights started flashing into the windows of my bedroom, where myself and probably 5 or 6 other folks were partaking in illicit substances use, this chick whom I do not know just dashes out of my room in a panic. She returns in an instant with a jar of my peanut butter and begins mashing her damn fingers into it and shoveling huge globs down her gullet. At this point, high on illicit substances, I vividly remember yelling in a manner that reminds me of Jessie from B. "What the duck, yo?" She can barely open her mouth or use her tongue because her crap is so covered in my ducking food, as she explains to the whole crowd that eating peanut butter will beat a breathalyzer test. Before tearing out back into the night, I've never seen her again. The cops are super nice. Just ask everyone to leave, and I wake up the next morning, which is when I see it. This peanut butter Karen cleaned her grody little claws all over my ducking walls on her way out the house. There were streaks of peanut butter down the hall, down the stairwell, and all over my god-danged couch by the front door, where my pillaged jar of peanut butter lay like a cowering victim by the welcome mat. I am still betrayed. Story 25. When I was a kid, me and my friends were over at a birthday party. We were playing hide and seek, and one of the kids pissed in the kitchen sink because he had to go, but didn't want to reveal his location. None of us knew about it at the time, but later my parents got a phone call asking if I did it. My dad sat me down and asked me straight up. I looked at him like he had 3 heads and said, "No, I'm not 5. Then he laughed his ass off at the idea of some middle schooler pissing in someone's kitchen sink. Everyone is asking me how the parents knew. I have no idea. My dad just got the call. I can ask my friend, who is the child of the house owner, if you all doubt me that much. My friend got back to me and said that the drain in the kitchen was clogged, so that piss was just sitting in there. Honestly, that doesn't surprise me. The kid who did it was weird. Story 26. My GF's old friend was in town, so he stayed with us. I already didn't trust him because he was a terrible alcoholic and was known to steal things. He stayed in her room and she slept in mine. Woke up at about 8:30 and he was gone. He pissed the bed, stole a vinyl of Elvis Presley's Moody Blue album from her wall. She had a limited edition black pressing. And we never heard from him again. He died a couple of months ago from overdose. Story 27. I was friends with a girl who insisted to HJ in my bed. I wasn't okay with it, but she said it's her body and she can do what she wants with it. I refused to let her do it in my bed, so she did it in my closet. I had to step out of my bedroom because the sounds of her moaning in my closet made me cringe. Next day when I went into my closet and I found one of my foam clothes hangers left on the floor all crusty. Story 28. A former friend stayed the weekend with her kids. She left a potty chair filled with pee in the room where they were staying, flashed her boobs at my husband, didn't feed her children breakfast, and the worst, she grabbed my cat's tail and pulled her across the floor. Story 29. Surfed adult film on my PC and got it infected with malware. I have to assume he also pleasured himself at my desk. I stopped hanging out with him when he decided to casually shoplift some stupid thing when we were at the mall. No way am I going to get caught up in any legal bullcrap because of his dumb ass. Story 30. Ooh, I have a story. My little brother is autistic. Naturally, when there was another kid with autism who came into the neighborhood for a block party, we invited him over. They had fun, seemed like a cool kid. He asked to use our bathroom and we said, sure, of course. He was in there for about a half hour and then he suddenly scurried out of the house and ran off somewhere. When my mother went in next, she found the walls covered in finger-painted feces. All our white towels were covered in brownish-green streaks, and there was brown stains all over the sink top and the rug on the floor. But the rug was upside down. Flip over the rug, it was even more covered in fecal matter. It was incredible. Bleach bombed the place with my mom. Never saw the kid again. Story 31. I have this one friend who ends up doing something ducked up every time he stays over, and one time he crapped himself, not even drunk. This man is in his late 20s, so I figured he would be all set to take a shower to clean himself up. He was in there for over a half an hour before the shower shut off. Meanwhile, The rest of us are drinking and chatting in the kitchen. After 10 minutes of audible clanking and thumping with him moving crap around in my bathroom, the shower turns back on. It is literally another half an hour before he finally comes out of the bathroom and everything in the room is moved. The counter and walls appear to have been washed. All the little bathroom rugs are in different spots, and various cleaning products from beside toilet are against the opposite wall. To this day, I am not sure what happened in that room while he was in there, but I haven't felt completely comfortable in my own bathroom since. Bonus story. Same guy. We had a few friends over for dinner and he was acting very odd while everyone was at the table, eating. He was uncharacteristically quiet and evasive. Later that same night, he admitted to us that he was indeed masturbating at my ducking kitchen table with a group of people sitting there with him. Story 32. Drunk friend puked on my couch and floor, made a half-assed attempt to clean it with some paper towels, then just left without saying anything while I was asleep in my room. Woke up to find puke everywhere. Story 33. Not my house, but when my friend and I were roughly 17, we came across some young transients in Philly. Being fresh from a youth group retreat and generally idealistic, we decided to buy them dinner. Then we decided to give them shelter for the night. Snuck them into my friend's gated community and then into the clubhouse. Came to bring them breakfast in the morning and the place was trashed, like chandelier ripped down from the ceiling trashed. While I'm still more than happy to give whatever help I can to the homeless, I am less likely to give to the crust punks who are clearly homeless by choice. Story 34. Gonna preface this by saying I can't prove a thing. When my boys were around 8-10, they had a sleepover. 4 to 5 boys from the neighborhood. One of the boys was weird. Know how you sometimes get that hair on the neck feeling about some people? So I didn't like this kid. Tried not to have him in my house, but he had to be included in this sleepover because neighbors. We had 2 kittens. The original idea was a tent in the backyard, but the weather wasn't good, so the tent ended up in the middle of the den. 2-story house. Upstairs were bedrooms and bathroom. Downstairs was the tent in the den and a guest bathroom. After all the kids went to sleep, I went upstairs to my bedroom. There was no reason for any kid to be upstairs during the night. When I woke up in the morning, there's water coming from under the upstairs bathroom door, and the door's locked. I pound on the door. No answer. I run downstairs to check on the boys, all still in the tent, but there's water raining down through the ceiling and onto the tent. I grab a screwdriver and run back upstairs. Pry open the bathroom door. Water is running in the bathtub, and there's a kitten floating in it. I turn off the water, lay down some towels to absorb the water, shut and lock the bathroom door, run back downstairs to check the kids again, all still asleep. I wake them up, tell them there's been an accident with the plumbing, get them out of the water-soaked den, into their clothes and send them home. Except this weird kid. He refuses to leave. I settle my boys and the weird kid who will not leave down in front of the TV with some breakfast. Go back upstairs to sort out the bathroom and the poor kitten. I have no idea what happened, but I don't like what's running through my mind. I lock myself into the bathroom so the boys don't wander in. I'm mopping water and wondering what the heck I'm gonna do with the kitten and how the hell I will ever explain this to my kids. When, guys, this weird kid starts knocking on the bathroom door. Conversation through the door. I need to use the bathroom. Use the one downstairs. I want to use this one. Go downstairs. What's wrong in there? Do you need some help? Is something wrong? I can help you. No, use the bathroom downstairs. Oh, have you seen the kitten? I can't find him. I'm sure kitten is around someplace. Go downstairs. Can I come in the bathroom and look for the kitten? Guys, I freaked the duck out. Creepy, sadistic git. I don't care if he was only 8 years old. You need to go home. My parents can't come get me yet. It's too early. Then walk. It's only half a block. I'll call your mom and tell her you're coming. I unlocked the bathroom door to get that weird, ducking crazy kid downstairs and to call his parents. I had to body check that kid to keep him out of the bathroom. He literally tried to run around me. I think that ducking kid hit it with the kitten in the middle of the night. Left the water running because he wanted one of the other kids to wake up with the water coming down through the ceiling and find the kitten. When that didn't work, he tried to discover the kitten himself. I cleaned everything up, told my kids that the kitten had gotten trapped in the bathroom and accidentally hurt himself. Thank goodness they were young enough to buy it. Had a kitten funeral later that day. I never let that kid in my house again. I didn't tell his parents anything about what happened because, frankly, his parents were as weird as he was. I'm waiting for the day I hear his name on the news and find out he's a serial offender. Story 35. A guy who came over to party, puked all over my bathroom, and then didn't clean it. Just went to sleep in my bed. I got him back though. I married him a couple of years later and gave him 2 kids, and he has had to clean way more puke since then. Story 36. Okay. So this one time I had my best buddy from elementary and middle school down to visit me from out of state. Awesome dude. Love having him around whenever I can. We went to visit my brother at his college dorm for some parties. Friend and I are both 21, 22 at this point. Brother and his friends are 18 to 19. We hit the bars downtown, get rip-roared, and proceed to walk back to the dorms to crash on various couches. I stayed up till about 5 a.m. hanging out with one of the roommates because we'd had vodka Red Bull and sleep wasn't going to be possible for a bit. At right around 4:45, we hear running water from the kitchen and both wondered who was up. As we walk out into the kitchen, we see out-of-state friends sleepily standing in front of the open refrigerator, taking a piss all over everything in there. I'm saying all over everything, full spray. Brothers, roommate, and I both simultaneously ask, but why? Out-of-state friend says, "Wanna suck it?" and then goes unconscious. By far, the worst thing done to anybody's place that I've seen personally. In his defense, out-of-state friend replaced everything in the fridge and cleaned it out to the extreme before everyone else woke up the next day. Probably ended up cleaner than it had been in years. All of bro's friends say it's one of their fave stories from college. Story 37. Years ago, I lived in a mobile home. Me and my SO, to help with bills and rent. We took in a guy as a roommate, short term, was supposed to be a week. Was my neighbor's father. I should have figured out right there when he didn't let his dad stay with him. Day 1, set up a computer in his room. That's cool. Play WoW or whatever you do. Nope, he was watching cam girls at a high volume. Day 2, I come home to my door locked. My key isn't working. This dude had the audacity to change my locks while I'm at work. He said he didn't feel safe. Day 3, I had friends over for a BBQ. We all worked at the same fast food restaurant that may or may not serve tacos. The store manager closed on Tuesdays. We were off as a group. Every Tuesday we'd eat, drink, etc. He'd bring some chick home without giving us a heads up. And they're having sex in his room with the bedroom door open. Seriously, now I don't even invite people to my house. Meet me somewhere. Nobody is coming over. Story 38. Most recently was a good friend's girlfriend. I love him to death and I miss hanging out with him. But I think his girlfriend and she's not welcome in my house. I'm the kind of person that feels someone's home is sacred. You show them respect when you're in their home and expect respect from those who come into your home. They came over for game night. Mind you, this is my second time ever meeting this Karen. And I already did not care for her, but he was happy to be seeing someone, and I wanted to give her another chance. I should preface, there are 2 bathrooms in my house. One is the public bathroom, middle of the hall, for everyone. My roommates are in charge of keeping this bathroom clean and generally do a good job. The second one is my private bathroom in my bedroom, which is the master bedroom. No one uses that bathroom but me. Now I will fully admit my bathroom is kinda gross, but again, it's my private bathroom, nobody should be seeing. Also, I close my bedroom door when I have guests over. So this Karen gets up and says she has to use the bathroom. She's gone an awful long time, then comes back and just goes, "Your bathroom is disgusting, just so you know." I thought my roommates had cleaned the main bathroom, but I could be wrong. So I apologize and say, well, my roommates are usually good about keeping it clean, but we all work a lot and don't always have time to. No, the hallway bathroom is fine. Your bathroom. I wanted to see what your room was like, so I walked in and looked around. Your bathroom is ducking gross. There's no excuse for that. Respect for my friend, who I've known for 18 years, is the only reason I didn't kick this Karen out of my ducking house. Who the hell did she think she was? My bedroom door was closed. Who does that? As a guest in someone's house? Goes through and gives themselves a private tour without asking the host, then criticizes them for their own private areas that they'd closed off. This is like, I'm not very easily offended, but this crap just pissed me off hard. I miss my buddy a lot, but they've been together for a year now, and there's no getting rid of her. I refuse to hang out with him with her around. Story 39. My friend casually threw a fork behind his back out of 11th floor window. My other friend then came to my flat out of nowhere with 4 piercing marks on his shoulder to register a complaint. 5 centimeters from his head/face. Story 40. My mother-in-law used my shower loofah for 5 days without telling me. I only found out when she asked where to get one because she enjoyed mine so much. Only one of the reasons I detest that woman. Story 41. So back in university, my friend invited this girl over, clearly with the intention of hooking up with her. We all had a few drinks and decided to go out. Halfway through the night, the girl disappears, so I asked my mate if he'd seen her and he says she met this guy and wanted to hook up with him. I've given her my key to the flat. Was a little weirded out that he's just giving our flat key out, but hey-ho. An hour or so after I got bored and decided to head back home. As I'm walking into the complex, these 2 guys were leaving, laughing between themselves, thought nothing of it, and went back to the flat. The girl was sat downstairs acting really weird. She had also gone into my closet and dressed herself in my clothes. Again, thought it was a little weird, was too drunk to care, so went to bed. Wakes up next morning with my flatmate screaming at the top of his voice, "She has crap in my ducking bed!" Get up to go and investigate, and lo and behold, there's literally crap marks all over his bed. She'd left at this point. So he rings her. and asks what happened. She embarrassingly admitted that she was hooking up with this guy and his cousin in my flatmate's bed when one of them put it in the wrong you-know. Long story short, crap went everywhere. These two guys noped the duck out, can't say I blame them, and left. She grabbed the nearest thing to her, a pair of their boxers, and madly tries to clean the mess she has made, whilst also going into my closet and dressing herself in my crap as her clothes were pretty ruined by all this. Well, that's pretty bad, I hear you saying. It gets worse. Later that day, my flatmate cooked and ate his dinner, just wanted some chips as he was hungover. After he'd made his food, I went to put something in the oven and there was something in there. This Efkin girl had basically heard me come into the flat the night before and still had the crap-covered boxers she was trying to clean the crap with in her hand. In an effort to save face, she just shoved them in the nearest thing to her, our oven. Story 42. I have a cousin, we'll call her Jane, who came to my house, along with my aunt and uncle, for 4th of July last year to celebrate with us. Around 11 p.m., my aunt and uncle got tired and decided to head to bed. Myself, Jane, my friends, and my mom stayed up a while longer and watched Jane play with what was left of the sparklers. Backstory. Jane was a little crap the whole day, screaming at her mom and my sister, tearing up our house, demanding we give in to her every want. Whether it was the music being played or the food being cooked, she was just being awful. And no matter what my aunt or uncle or even my own parents did, she wouldn't calm the hell down. By 11 p.m., we were all tired of her, so we just let her play. A little later, about midnight, Jane goes into the kitchen, which leads directly to the backyard where we were shooting fireworks, and there's a bay window that looks out, but if the kitchen lights are on it while it's dark out the window glares so bad, you can't see out. You can only see in. Well, Jane grabs some orange juice out of the fridge. No big deal. But then my little sister walks into the kitchen, and Jane doesn't move until she leaves, which prompts my mom to watch her. After my little sister leaves, we watch Jane grab the vodka. It's July 4th, of course there's liquor, and fill half the cup with it, and the other half with OJ. WTF? So my mom busts into the kitchen, and after Jane denies she just poured herself a nightcap, my mother cop-locked her arms behind her and pushed her to the guest room, and woke up her parents to let them know what happened. My uncle patted her down to find she also stole 3 cigarettes and a lighter from my dad. They left immediately the next morning. Story 43. He brought 2 perturbed trash pandas inside my house. They went nuts and made a nest in my attic. This guy was always pulling that crap when he came to visit. This wasn't the worst example. Tried staging a YouTube animal fight between a badger and a pack of ferrets in my bedroom. Story 44. Someone at my house tried to increase the water pressure in the shower by twisting the lid under the sink, which makes no sense. So she did that, and water started leaking inside the walls, and she caused serious water damage to the paint and wood in 3 rooms and 2 stories of our house. She knew it happened too, basically said whoops, and never apologized either. Story 45. I was hosting a small party, and this guy goes into the kitchen where several stacks of disposable cups are clearly set out for guests to use. He then proceeds to take a nice glass from my cupboard, opens the fridge, digs through it to snack and grab my only 6-pack of Tab, while there were multiple ice packs of various other drinks in the cooler, right beside him, on the counter. He drank every last can of Tab, every single can. Story 46. This all happened when we were 14, for reference, because it'd be even weirder if this was a grown-ass woman. I had one of those swing asan chairs in my room. One time a friend, who I no longer talk to for obvious reason, decided to climb onto it and swing like Miley Cyrus until I had to physically pull her off. She also went through my closet while I was in the bathroom, found a bunch of my old journals from elementary middle school and tried to read them, fighting me when I tried to take them away. I practically had to tackle her. Also, every time she came over, yes, I actually invited her back after this, I didn't have any other friends so I dealt with it. She'd spend the entire time playing games on my iPad and ignoring me. One time I hid the iPad, and she spent the entire time laying on my couch looking depressed. She was a Karen. Story 47. Late December 2015, my roommate and I were hosting a bunch of mid-late 20-something high school friends in Washington, D.C. for our annual Festivus celebration. One really bad hombre took a massive drunk crap on the carpeted stairs to the basement, where I sleep. It happened very late at night, so no one noticed until I stepped in it, heading upstairs to use the bathroom at like 5 a.m. I 1-foot hopped to the kitchen sink and scrubbed like a madman. Then I covered it with a note saying, "Poop, human," since we have a dog, and I foolishly assumed he might be the culprit. Good deed done. I smoked a bowl to ease the poop foot trauma and returned to bed. By the time the guilty party awoke, we knew it was him. 2 guys had seen him in the act and tried yelling at him to stop, but got no response. So they gave up and passed back out. We let the poop bandit speculate on who it might have been for 10-15 minutes before we brought his blackout world crashing down around him. He did a subpar cleaning job and left. Perhaps the worst part, as you might guess, there's no toilet paper on my stairs. In his blackout state, he did no cleaning. which was almost certainly why the Uber driver refused to let him in the vehicle that morning. He had to call his fiancée and explain why he needed her help getting back home to Virginia. Story 48. When I was 19, I begged my dad to have a Halloween party at his house. He regrettably agreed to it on the one condition that he could be there. Now we made a Facebook group for this thing, and this being my first party I've thrown, I invited everybody. I even went as far as to invite my 20-something-year-old friend Zach and told him he can bring his MMA buddies on the condition that they help me out by acting as security, which worked out. The cops did show, but they were able to round everyone up and make them go upstairs. A lot of us were underage. The police left and the party continued. Now, fast forward maybe 2 hours, these guys had devolved by that point. Come to find out they were on Klonopin as well as the copious amounts of Dubra they brought. I know. Basically, by the end of the night, they'd lost one of their friends, one passed out in the bed of my father's truck, another on the front steps, and that left Zach, the one of them that I knew, and their leader, still going strong, lost in my pitch-black garage, tripping over everything. I found out he was in there when I heard a loud bang. It was him knocking over my dad's Harley, which he'd been rebuilding. So immediately I go to investigate and find this man. I get him inside, kind of half carrying him because he was gone. He finally snapped to it, and when it got to the point where he was begging my father to wrestle him, we decided it was time for Zach to go. So we brought him outside, sat him down next to his friend on the steps, and went to bed. They were all gone by the time we got up. Story 49. My father and his girlfriend visit from out of town and rearrange my kitchen every time. They love to cook for me, but apparently I keep everything in the wrong place. I spend the following week after they leave slowly relocating cookware and utensils, putting it back where it belongs. Story 50. My old roommate's girlfriend's brother came over one night to just hang out and have some beers with all of us. We ended up drinking quite a bit, so we told him he could just crash on the couch for the night. He told us he'd take off in the morning. Well, my roomies and I wake up around 8 a.m. for work, and he's still sleeping. Whatever. I got back home around 6 p.m., and he was still there. Not only was he still in our house, but he was lying on the couch, shirtless, watching TV. He also had proceeded to drink all of our beers throughout the day and eat all of my leftovers I had in the fridge. I was more weirded out than upset, but I was like, "You gotta go, dude." He left without any fuss, but it was so ducking bizarre. I guess it was more weird than ducked up, but still pretty ducked up. Story 51. Back in high school, I was throwing a party at my house. Now, during the night, this couple came up and asked me if they could use my guest room to fool around. I said to go ahead, that's what that room is for. Well, about 5 minutes after that exchange, this neckbeard, with a hard-on for the chick who just went up with her boyfriend, went upstairs and started banging on the door. They locked it. He tried to just walk in. I hear the noise, so I go to the entrance and look upstairs at the guest room door, to which at that point, I see this neckbeard do this SWAT team kick and break open my door. I ask him do TF, and he says, "It's rude for people to lock your doors in your own house." I just kicked his ass out. This was low-key one of many creepy-ass crap he did too, and thought about how I'm going to explain the door to my mom's story 52. It was Christmas time, and my mom's side of the family was over. Cousins brought over their RV, so all of us kids slept outside in it while the adults slept in the house. I had to go to the washroom at 3 a.m., so I walk up to the door to enter the house. Peering through the window into the house, I see my grandma's bare ass as she's walking around the kitchen completely and utterly naked. Easily one of the most disturbing experiences of my childhood. Story 53. My sister-in-law opened up a bottle of champagne someone had given us for our wedding. We were obviously saving it. It was super recognizable because it was gold, had a giant picture of a bride and groom on it, and said, "Congratulations X and Y with our wedding date." When we confronted her, she said she didn't know anything about it, but there were still bubbles coming up, so given the time frame, it almost definitely had to be her. Story 54. Cousin of an ex got drunk and pilled out, then diarrhea shat herself all over my couch after we all had gone to sleep, tried to clean herself by going to the bathroom. Then, when that bathroom was too contaminated with crap all over the toilet, and all in the sink, almost to the point of being clogged. Then she went to my other bathroom to clean herself off. Crap was everywhere. Walls, shower curtains, sinks, and door handles. She woke me up and said there was an emergency. I got up and drove her to her car before I discovered anything from the literal crap storm. That was the craptiest day of my life. Story 55. Had some wicked liquid crap in my bathroom. He panicked and emptied several cans of air freshener in there. My whole apartment had the fragrance of lavender and feces. It was mind-numbingly pleasant and horrible at the same time. On the opposite side of the spectrum, I spent the weekend at a friend's house and accidentally changed his Wi-Fi password and messed up his internet and broke a window. He wasn't home and left me his house, which I accidentally destroyed. I left him $500, repaired the window, and filled his fridge with new groceries, left him a note telling him I'm sorry, and never spoke with him again. Story 56. This guy got so drunk he stripped his clothes, confused a bookshelf with the staircase leading upstairs, and smeared his feces all over the bookcase while trying to climb it before passing out. Except it wasn't a guest. It was me, story 57. When I was about 7, my best friend at the time would come to my house, and every time he used the toilet, presumably to crap, he would shout to my mom and ask her to wipe for him. Looking back now, I realized that was pretty messed up. Also, my brother had this girl come around a few times because she pressured him into it. They were about 10 maybe, and she was a Jehovah's Witness and wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter. One time I wanted to ask my brother something, but she slammed the door on my foot because I wasn't allowed to talk to them. And when the Karen left, I realized she had ducking chewed up my plastic snake with her teeth. I don't know what my mom was thinking. Let us bring these weird kids round. Story 58. Had a house guest who was fairly tall turn the shower head around to bounce the water off the drywall and ceiling to get the water to fall on his head. He has not been invited back. Story 59. Was hosting a party. A roommate invites a guy she wants to mount. Guy brings his brother. Brother brings his ex-cellmate. Ex-cellmate uses my other roommate's toothbrush to make substances in our bathroom. After the brother is told to get the guy out of there, the cellmate punches a girl in the face. I drag him to the end of the driveway just in time for cops to show up. I yell, "Get off my property." I get a call from the cops the next day. He was charged with violating parole, possession with intent to sell, resisting arrest, and apparently he had a pistol on him. In Canada, story 60, threw a bowling ball through the wall above the stairs which went into our basement, stole the whole entire back wooden steps off the side of our house that went to our kitchen door, walked directly into the sliding balcony door, kicking it and putting a big crack in it with the tip of their shoe, threw snowballs through a broken window upstairs, climbed up onto our roof high. I should also mention, we all lived in a really notorious party house back in the day. We used to throw big parties. Story 61. GF, now wife, was living in a house with roommates. One of the girls renting her own room brought her friend over one night. She stole my wife's debit card and used it to go buy Taco Bell and gas. She ended up feeling guilty though and returned them the next day and apologized. Luckily for her, my wife is a goddess and forgave her. I would have called the police. The roommate and her friend were both morbidly obese, so I don't know if it was her hunger that compelled her to steal or if she was just a crafty person. I can't imagine going over to a buddy's house and stealing something from one of their roommates. Kind of obvious who stole it, don't you think? Story 62. My fiance's cousin and some of her friends came over one day. A couple days after, I had taken a shower, and when I came out, my entire living room was flooded. What the hell? I couldn't tell where it came from. This continued for several days when we finally figured out what was happening. Anytime there was a fair amount of water being used, showers, laundry, etc., water was flowing out of a gap between my toilet and the floor, in the bathroom attached to the living room. We had to call out a plumber and pay thousands to have our pipes fixed. Turns out someone had flushed multiple tampons down the toilet, causing a clog in my pipes, and would flood my living room with crapty, contaminated water. These women were all in their 20s. They had to have known you can't do that crap. Story 63. Tried to get in bed with me at 5 a.m. I'd known him for years. He lived over an hour away. So after hanging out at my house one day, the only time he visited, I told him he could crash in the guest bedroom. I wake up to him rubbing my shoulder, holding up the covers, getting ready to slide in beside me. I reacted with a definite no, so he immediately left. I've never seen him again. He sent me a message in Gmail asking if I was looking for work a few months later, blocked him immediately. Story 64. Do substances in my bathroom after swearing he was clean. Threw his ass out the front door at 2 a.m. Bonus. I had been clean myself for over a year and a half. Ducker knew I was trying to keep my crap together. Story 65. Not me, but a friend of mine growing up. This is the worst thing done to a guest. He had several brothers. Their parents used to enjoy having guests over for dinner. The brothers took turns hiding in the bathroom shower so they could spy on people using the restroom. One dinner guest happened to be a really fat woman. The fat woman let out a loud fart, and my friend couldn't help but burst out laughing. He had to run out of the bathroom while she was still sitting on the toilet. What's the weirdest thing guest has done at your house? I was emptying your dishwasher and I didn't really know where anything was supposed to go, so I went ahead and rearranged all your cabinets in a way that makes sense to me. I knew my meal staying with us was going to be a problem, but this was a level I was not prepared for. Like really, you couldn't just open cabinets until you found the cups and put them in there and so on. Story 2. We had a couple over for dinner. Had a good time, but they stayed and stayed. Around midnight, they asked where they should sleep. We lived in a small one-bedroom apartment and were puzzled, so delicately asked them if they wouldn't be going home. They said since we'd given them alcohol, they wouldn't be able to drive. 4 adults, 1 bottle of wine, 6 hours. We were nonplussed. Gave them a couple blankets and pillows and said they could sleep on the couch or floor. We did not invite them again. Story 3. Guy from high school stayed at my house a few years back. It was someone that I wasn't close with, but someone I knew. And he gave me a sob story about how the pipes in his house burst and got everything wet, so he needed a place to crash for the night. When he got to my place, I showed him how to use my Fire Stick so he could watch TV, and then I went to bed. I woke up in the morning to a bunch of emails from Amazon. Thanks for signing up for HBO Go. Thanks for signing up for the Showtime app. A whole signed me up for a bunch of premium movie channel apps. Story 4. My ex-mother-in-law. She had to pee in the middle of the night, but her son, my ex, was in the only bathroom. Instead of knocking, she got a glass out of the kitchen, went into the garage, and squatted to pee into the cup. I had heard the garage door open and got up to see what was going on, and startled her, causing her to spill her cup of pee all over the floor. Story 5. My mom told me the woman who babysat me when I was like 3 years old would change the place of our entire furniture to her liking. My mom would get home, and our whole living room would be different, and the woman would just say, well, I like it better like that. And my mom would be, yeah, but that's my house, not yours. Story 6. A guy I dated used to put on a hat to make a phone call. When I asked why, he said because he usually would go outside to smoke a cigarette while making a phone call. He tried not to smoke around me because I didn't like it. He also put on sunglasses to brush his teeth. I didn't get a good answer for that one. Story 7. My sister's mother-in-law visited them a year or so after they got married. They both had to work, and that meant leaving her at home all day. When they got back, the mother-in-law had decided to be helpful and clean the house, vacuumed the living room, did dishes, sanitized and reboxed all of their sex toys. I thought it was weird then, and it was, but these days it'd be worth it to get the dishes done. Story 8. Had a neighbor stop by. We gave him a beer and he popped the top off and casually tossed it, ETA, the cap, on the floor like it was completely normal. Story 9. Someone I was seeing for a while told me months after the fact that she had taken a dump and was unable to flush it. She took the C out of the toilet and placed it in the bin, the kitchen bin. Story 10. I was visiting my parents a few months ago and was outside helping out with some wood cutting for my mom. Cutting down dead trees, splitting the logs, the whole 9 yards. I was hot, sweaty, tired, and ready for a cold shower. More on that in a sec. At the time, a college student that my parents go to church with needed a place to house her family for graduation weekend. My folks have plenty of space and let the woman's parents, sister plus Bill plus newborn, and cousin stay with them. Well, I got back into the house right around the same time as the guests did, introduced myself, chatted a bit. They got shown to their rooms, and I excused myself to go shower. I went up to my old room, closed the door, turned the shower on, and started undressing. Business as usual. Then I heard my door open. I honestly wasn't sure if I had imagined the noise or not. Anytime I'm visiting, mom or dad will knock, crack the door open, and call my name, almost as if they didn't want to walk in on me after I dropped trow. Imagine that. Well, I turn around, drawers halfway down my legs to see the college student, her sister, her cousin, and her dad standing in the doorway. I blurted out, "Yo, do you mind? I'm finna shower here." And they responded, "Oh, I'm sorry, we were just exploring the rest of the house." Maybe I'm thinking about it too hard, but I'm not one to start opening closed doors. When I'm a guest at someone's house, if I haven't been explicitly told that I can go in there. I'm naked in here, dude. Story 11. My grandparents stayed with my family for a few months after my grandfather had surgery. I was a young teen then. I took the guest room because it was smaller and let them have mine. I offered. It was initially for a month only, and I still kept my things in the closet. My grandmother reorganized everything, checked my nightstand and desk, went to every single thing, and then had the audacity to whine to my parents. Ever since that, I can't have people in my room without feeling uncomfortable, and they can't be left alone. There's nothing to hide, but I can't stand it. Story 12. When I was in pharmacy school, 3rd year, a student in the year above asked if she could spend the night at the place I was renting, close to school, so she could have a place to stay while taking a Naplex prep course. Big exam after graduating to become a licensed pharmacist. And I agreed because I had met her a few times previously and was on friendly terms. It was a small place with only one bathroom basically in the living room area. She went to pee, but I never heard anything, which is fine, except when I went to use the bathroom, the rug in front of the toilet was drenched. I guess she didn't want me to hear her peeing, so she tried to do it silently, but ended up basically pissing on the floor. I didn't say anything at the time, but maybe I should have. I was just so flabbergasted at the moment. Story 13. Our redneck friend was staying with us for a night. He said our shower drain was clogged and got pliers and just ripped the drain cover up. This was an apartment, so the drain cover was like fused into the tub. Sharp metal was sticking up from him bending it open. Story 14. An old coworker I haven't seen in years came over with her toddler son. She came over because her teenage daughter was looking to make some money cleaning house and/or yard work and was going to give me an estimate. My husband and I are child-free, and therefore our home is not child-proofed at all. We collect antiques. She let her toddler run in our house. It was like she was just completely checked out, and this was her me time to not deal with her kid. He was an absolute terror. I had to tell him no about 50 times, guide him out of our different rooms, tell him to not pull our dogs' tails. We have 3 senior dogs, so I'm very protective of them. She didn't even give me a quote for her daughter. I finally, in a nice way, kicked them out. If she would have parented her child, I wouldn't have a problem. I get toddlers are a handful. I just don't want to deal with an acquaintance's child who has 0 direction from his parents in my own home. Duck that. Story 15. Had some college friends from out of town over for a weekend camping trip. They had never been camping. I got called into work for an emergency and told them I would be back in 2 hours. During the 2 hours I was out, they moved a bunch of stuff from my bedroom to the living room and from the living room to the shelves in my bedroom. I thought it was odd, but didn't worry about it. Once we get back from the trip, I noticed they all quickly came up with reasons to leave. After they left, I realized I was missing several CDs and DVDs, a digital camera, several books, a portable speaker, and other random stuff they apparently didn't think I'd miss. They couldn't figure out why I never talked to them again. Story 16. She ate all my food within 2 days. I'm talking 24-pack of sodas, 2 bags of chips with dip, a loaf of bread, 3 sticks of butter, all my dessert cereals. I didn't have the heart to say anything about it. I think she has a very serious eating disorder. Story 17. My cousin and her new hippie boyfriend drove from Arizona to my place in New Orleans. It was a small apartment. When I opened the door, he said, "Nice to meet you," and pushed past me to the bathroom, where he delivered one of the smelliest dumps I've ever experienced. The smell was pure rotten and quickly filled my entire apartment. Mind you, there was a window in the bathroom, as well as a vent, matches, candles, poopery, and room sprays. Then he asked me to find him an old oak tree that would hold him like a mama. It was all downhill from that literally crafty first impression. Story 18. In my 20s, a friend of a friend came over and she would always pretend to be a cat. Not in a cute way, but in a, I'm gonna pretend to slowly push stuff off of your countertops and tables with my paw. The first time it was a little funny because we were high and it was something innocuous like a pile of papers. But she kept doing it and doing it. On a couple occasions, she actually pushed glassware off my table, shattering it, so I finally had to ban her from my apartment. Story 19. I was away for a week or so with my boyfriend. A friend of his was down on her luck and needed a place to stay. So I said she could stay at my place. She was supposed to use that week to find a more permanent place to stay. When we were coming back from our trip, my BF called her from our hotel room, and she started to try to convince him to convince me to let her stay as my roommate. She said she had cleaned and rearranged my home to show that she would be a good roommate. Tried to guilt trip me when she was on the phone with him, while also making pointed comments about how dirty my house had been. She got pissed off when I said no, but there was no way I wanted to live with her. When I got back home, it turns out she had thrown out a bunch of my houseplants because they had ants. I'm a massive houseplant collector and I'd had these for decades. I saved them from the trash and got rid of the ants by flooding the plant pots with water. I still have the plants. She had drunk all my alcohol, including a sentimental bottle of wine BF had given, plus stuff she'd bought. She was supposedly in recovery, but the recycling receptacle had a bunch of alcohol bottles in it that I didn't put there. She had invited my boyfriend's male friend over, who had broken the towel rack in my bathroom and then just left it on the kitchen table. Broken. He was a contractor. He knew how to fix things, but didn't even bother. I told him to come fix it, which he did. She denied she'd drunk the alcohol or that she'd invited the dude over, even though there was a ton of evidence. She had moved a bunch of her stuff into my garage. I made her get out and she left, but she kept her stuff in my garage until the BF threatened to sell it if she didn't come and get it. Story 20. My sister's ex-baby dad would openly go through our stuff, drawers, closets, etc. He knew it was a weird thing to do, but shrugged it off because he's just curious. It honestly didn't bother me too much until he told my niece and nephew it was okay to go in my basement, which is also my bedroom, after me explicitly saying no. He just kept saying, "No, it's fine," and then went down with them. The fact that he knows it's wrong, weird, impolite, and then turns right around and teaches his kids it's okay to completely ignore people's boundaries and snoop through their things, whack. Story 21. We hosted one of my cousins that I'm not close to because she wanted to see my city. The first night I set up the shower for her because it has to run for about 2 minutes before the water heater kicks on for the first round of showers of the day during the summer. And I set out a washcloth for her, then told her I'd be back with a towel as soon as the load from the dryer was done. I knock on the door, no answer. I open it saying, "Don't mind me, I'm just leaving a towel on the rack for you," expecting that she'd be behind the curtain washing up. Instead, I find her with the shower curtain fully drawn, ass naked and bone dry against the wall, with the equally dry washcloth on her chest, just staring at the steamy water come down. I just kind of blinked at her and told her she could leave the towel in the laundry basket when she's done. Naturally, when she emerges upstairs, she's bone dry and smells like armpit, and her towel in the hamper was also bone dry. She stank for the whole week she was here, and weirdly did a daily routine of letting the water run for 10 minutes while she pretended to bathe, then wrapping her dry towel around her freshly sweaty, filthy body. We had to steam the carpets and wash the pillows, not just the pillowcases, the actual pillows, in the guest room to get her stench out. Story 22. This isn't super weird, but it did make for an awkward encounter. My husband and I had a housewarming party and put a sign on our bedroom door to stay out and keep the door closed, since that's where we were keeping our indoor cats, so they wouldn't get outside with everyone coming and going. A few hours in, I decided to go visit with them and make sure they were doing okay with all the noise, and heard who I assumed was my husband in the ensuite bathroom accessible only from our room. I was chilling with the cats on our bed and was waiting for him to come out since I'd barely seen him all night. Then our bedroom door opens and in walks my husband right as his friend exited our bathroom. I was embarrassed because I'd basically been listening to a guest poop for 15 minutes. He was embarrassed because I'd been listening to him poop, and my husband was really confused as to what we'd been doing in there by ourselves. As soon as I explained I thought it was my husband in the bathroom, we all laughed, but it was super awkward for everyone. I get that he wanted some privacy, but I don't think people should disregard "don't go in this room" signs at someone else's house. Story 23. A friend from HS came with her boyfriend to visit me for a long weekend. They stayed with and my husband. We only have one bathroom, but they knew this beforehand, and she said it would be all fine. We made do. They showered together every day. They didn't have sex. Our place is small, we would have heard. But to me, that wad wild. They also left water all over the floor and didn't bother to clean up or ask us for supplies to clean it up. They lived in a country where downloading stuff on torrent is not illegal nor punishable by law. I do. This dude left his torrent open, and a few months later we received a letter fining us for like $1K. Oh, and when I went to visit, the dude didn't want me to stay with them, so I had to get a hotel, or ever hosting them again, ever. Story 24. Spouse's scummy relative was allowed to crash at our house while we were out of town for work. We came back to find that she'd taken in 2 different scummy friends of her own, who'd each taken in a scummy friend of their own. Freeloaders all the way down. These ungrateful, non-consensual extra guests treated the place like they were squatters in an abandoned building. A window was shattered. They'd written graffiti on furniture. Gum was trampled into the carpet. Would have been rude enough if she, original sole person we took in, had been a paying tenant, but to behave like that in return for being given free place to stay while she was going through a rough patch. You don't duck over people who did you a favor. She seemed to think the place being trashed and things stolen by the zombie horde she unleashed was not her fault, since she personally didn't trash anything. Grown 40-something mother of 3 and too immature to understand that if she lets a bunch of crackheads into someone else's home, that's not cool. In hindsight, I'm amazed the house never got burnt down. Story 25. We have a summer cabin in the mountain. My so invited his grown-up daughter to come visit. She wanted to bring a friend. We were like, great, the more the merrier. This friend went into our bedroom and stole some of my important prescription medications that I had stored in a box in a corner under a couple other boxes. Also, a bottle of used nail polish and a handmade coffee mug that had been gifted to which was decorative only. Story 26. When I was about 9, my mother was frequently visited by a friend who I already didn't like at the time. Once she forgot to lock the bathroom, and then I caught her squeezing our shower gel into a plastic bag. When she stole my first Nokia, my mother finally ended the friendship. I guess that's why I only let a few people in story 27. Not really weird, but rude. My husband's cousin and her husband visited us for a night one weekend. She's a doctor, he's a Marine Corps major. When they brushed their teeth before bed that night, they both spit their toothpaste into the sink and didn't rinse it out. Just left it there to dry and get crusty. Who the hell does that? Story 28. When my brothers and I were in high school, we would host open-door hangouts pretty regularly. One night, after my mom sent everyone home, she got up at like 3 a.m. to get a drink and noticed a glow coming from the office. She found a girl we marginally knew on our family computer. She had come back after everyone was asleep to chat with her online boyfriend for hours using our internet. She did it because she had been grounded from her computer for being on it night and day. It was super awkward. Story 29. One of my dad's friend's sons showed up randomly at my house and said he needed someone to talk to. He had a 12-pack of Keystone in hand. I was like, okay. So I let him come in and he chuggas 2 beers and starts careening about his dad, how he hates him and how as a son he's a failure and all that. I'm like, okay. He says he has to go to the bathroom and I'm like, K. He dips out and then I hear a scream and banging flowed by screaming and cussing. Dude is hitting and kicking my walls and cabinets. He puts 2 lower holes in my walls, one in a hollow core door for a bedroom, and then part of one high up where he found a stud and I guess broke some knuckles. I was like, WTF, and was like, bro, you gotta go WTF. It's been 10 years and he has never come back by or attempted to make it right to me, nor did his father. I fixed all the holes but the hollow core door because it's just got to be replaced, and because of the custom design of the wood stain that matches the rest of the house, it was easier just to put a picture over it. Story 30. Crap themselves, then get it on the bathroom rug, the sink, the back of the toilet, and bathroom towels. We'd had moved in about 2 weeks earlier after having the house built. Story 31. This always gives me fond memories. I was playing floorball in a team in my hometown, and we decided to throw a party with the team. We'd have the party at my house, since it was close to town, and as soon as we got there, a Finnish guy in the team asked me if I had any vodka. I said of course, and got him the vodka and asked if he wanted some sodas to mix it with, to which he declined. I figured he'd just drink it on the rocks or something then, so didn't really bother probing. But then he walks up to the kitchen sink, pours up lukewarm water into the glass and mixes it with vodka. Then he asks me if we have a bathtub, and I say sure. So this dude, mid-party, strips entirely nude and pours himself a bath, lays in the bath, doesn't lock the door or anything, so there's like a mini party in there with him, and drinks his lukewarm water and vodka drink. He was a cool dude though, good lad. Story 32. I felt bad for a guy at a bar once. He was really young, like freshly 21, had a broken foot, lived far away. His friends ditched him, and he couldn't reach his dad for a ride home. I told him he could crash at mine for the night, and I'd take him home before work if he still couldn't reach his dad. In the 10 hours he was in my house, he took an hour-long shower and used a bunch of my purple shampoo, and then filled the bottle halfway with water, attempted to draw on a fake beard with my eyeliner, knocked over one of my potted plants, and then just moved it into the shower, but not even upright. Still tipped over, stained one of the pillows on my couch with God knows what, stained my sink pink somehow, and did something that terrified my dog so much that she wouldn't leave my bedroom for the rest of the day after he left. Also found some kind of pipe in a closet on top of my furnace like 6 months after. Nobody is ever staying at my house again. Story 33. Kid's birthday party. One kid comes over, gives my kid their present, then hands me a cake mix box and says, "My mom said you can make this for the party." Like, they didn't bring the actual cake, but just the bake mix you can buy at the store, where you have to add eggs or whatever, and expected me to make it that day. Story 34. My friend stayed with me for a while, when he was in between apartments. Since we had different schedules, I gave him a key. He eventually found a new place a few blocks away, but would often come over to mine anyway, as my apartment was right above our favorite bar. I had been chronically ill for most of that year, and was asleep one night when he came into my room, sat at my desk, proceeded to do some substances and roll himself a cigarette, which he also rolled while telling me that I really need to take better care of myself. I never thought I'd be the kind of lady to drag someone out by the ear, but here we are, and I got the key back. Story 35. We had a couple stay with us for a week. We met them in Cambodia years ago, and when they decided to visit Canada, we were happy to have them. They were from New Zealand. They were great guests, but on the 4th day or so we noticed they started using the main floor bathroom all the time, which was odd because they had an ensuite bathroom in the room they were staying in. Once they had left, I was cleaning the washroom down there and I noticed the toilet wasn't flushing well. I could not get this thing cleared, which is unusual because I'm a plumber. I was getting something orange back in small amounts. Long story short, I had to get a new toilet, but not before cracking the old bowl. We smashed it in the front yard on a tarp, and as the sex toy rolled out and down the driveway, we just froze. We mailed it to them. Story 36. Said they had to vacate because of a hurricane and asked to stay with us for a few days. A week went by and they were still there, eating all our food, and the kids trashed our house. I finally asked them to leave, and they got mad. Turned out the hurricane didn't hit near their town, and the husband took a 2-week vacation from work. They were going to stay with us 2 weeks without asking. Story 37. My boyfriend's friend was staying with us for a few days. The buzzer rings, but I wasn't expecting anyone. He says, "That's my guy," meaning his substances dealer. They do their transaction in another room, and the dealer leaves. He doesn't offer to share anything with us. An hour later, the buzzer rings again. He says, "Hope it's okay, a friend stops by for a sec." Turns out he ordered a prostitute and said, "It'll be real quick." I kicked him and the hoe out before they tried to get busy in my bed. He didn't understand why I was mad. Story 38. I had a friend who would fight with his dad a lot, get thrown out of his house, and end up sleeping on a couch in my room when this was going on. We were in our 20s. At one stage, he started sleeping naked, getting up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, completely naked and making a lot of noise coming back. So I'd wake up. It's like he wanted me to see. It was just weird. It was my parents' house at the time too, and they'd be asleep in the next room. I'm sure they'd have awkward questions for me if they saw this man walking around the house naked in the middle of the night before going into my room. I called him out on it after the 2nd or 3rd time and told him straight out that I don't like him staying here. Like, we can hang, but he can't stay anymore. Story 39. Back when everyone had record turntables for music. An old friend came into town and stayed over after dinner and bar visit. At some point during the night, he lifted the lid on the turntable and peed all over the turntable. He ended up paying for a new one and always said, "At least I lifted the toilet seat." Story 40. A guest tried to light a cigarette to remove the smell he left in the bathroom and threw the cigarette inside the trash while it was still on, and the bathroom literally caught fire. Story 41. Poop without flushing. No toilet paper, just one long poop. It has happened 3 times now. It's my fiance's best friend. My fiance isn't like this at all. He's so clean and tidy and hygienic. Don't know how to broach the issue. But why would you want anyone to know you don't wipe your ass, my dude? Story 42. My mill rearranged my kitchen. She didn't like that my top shelves were empty. They were empty because I can't reach them. A few days later, I went in my basement and it was full of junk. I said to husband, "Where'd all this crap come from?" My mother wanted it out of her garage so she could put her car in the garage. Told him it's not staying here. Told her she had 2 weeks to get it out. If she didn't, I was going into the garbage. She didn't come and get it. It went into the garbage. I also gave her a bill for $400 for the removal. Story 43. My mother berated my 8-year-old son when he set the table with actual plates instead of paper plates when I went to pick up pizza. He was sobbing when I came home. I don't use paper plates and never have, but somehow she found some in the back of a cupboard left over from one of the kids' parties and reset the table. I was pissed. I grabbed the plates and threw them in the garbage and said, "How dare you give him crap for doing something nice?" And unasked, "You don't live here, and he certainly knows what we do in his home." Then I reset the table with the plates we actually use. Story 44. Brought a carton of Juicy, only drank a glass until it was time to leave, when she proceeded to drink the whole rest of the liter consecutively. It would have been fine to just take the carton with her. I guess that euro was too precious to leave to us. Story 45. Got super plastered and took a giant wooden fork we had on our wall for decoration and then tried to eat salad with it. When that didn't work, she grabbed the wooden spoon and proceeded to try and eat ice cream. She then got insulted over my husband asking her what the hell she was doing, went outside our condo, and refused to come back into the condo until I convinced her to come back in. Both my husband and my friend were so hammered, they hardly remember it. I was 4 months pregnant and very aware of the situation. She is still one of my favorite humans out there. Story 46. She peed all over the toilet and the bathroom floor. I cleaned it up and didn't say anything. Didn't want to embarrass her. Later, she said that when she visits other people's homes, she doesn't actually sit on the toilet while she urinates, just hovers above, in case their housekeeping isn't up to her standards. Story 47. My daughter's friend's parents hung out at our house during my daughter's birthday party, which was totally fine. This was our first time meeting them, so makes sense. The mom did that move where she took her bra off under her shirt and tossed it into the middle of the floor in front of a room full of middle schoolers. I wouldn't have cared or even noticed if she'd taken it off in the bathroom, or maybe not even if she'd discreetly taken it off, but the floor toss was really odd. Story 48. Not my house, however. Years ago, a friend of mine was hosting her cousin and his wife at her home. A bunch of us, about 15, were going to a concert, Jimmy Buffett, and we were all meeting at friend's house before we left for the amphitheater. Cousin's wife has some OCD-type issues or something. She was going to shower and get ready, etc. She must have spent about an hour cleaning that bathroom, door shut, before she took a shower and finished getting ready. It was bizarre. Story 49. When my dad was getting remarried, a guest stole his wallet out of his bedroom, took all the cash and hid it in a folded towel in the guest bathroom. My dad had to get everything replaced and didn't find the wallet until almost 2 years later. Story 50. An old friend of my husband and I was in town, and we happened to be having a party for my husband's birthday. While the party was going on in the backyard, I realized he had been gone for quite a while. I went in the house and found him wandering around our house slowly, taking pictures of our decor and saying how amazing it was. Also, the old friend asked if he could just sleep in his car outside that night. We offered him our couch, but he said no, he wanted to sleep in his car. Okay, story 51. I remembered crazy meal incident. She got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. She overflowed the toilet and didn't tell anyone and went back to bed. I woke up and splashed in water. The toilet ran all night flooding my house. My carpets were ruined, all my dressers, tables, chairs, etc. were ruined because they were waterlogged. She got up, said it was the last day of her vacation, and she was going to the beach. We spent all day trying to get the water out of the floors and taking our furniture to the dump. Effing psycho. Story 52. Not me, but my partner before we were together. One of our mutual friends showed up at my partner's house in the middle of the night, absolutely hammered. He then crapped his pants and put them in the trash. He proceeded to steal a pair of my boyfriend's pants. Oh, underwear. Still crafty ass. Boyfriend was asleep for all of this. Woke up the next morning to find crafty pants in the trash and a rogue turd somehow in the sink. Story 53. Dude who was staying at my apartment for a month was sitting buck naked on my couch. Acted like it was the most normal thing in the world, which I guess it was for him. Thankfully, he wore underwear afterward, but still, what an unexpected sight. Story 54. This one guest, a distant brother of mine, who barely exists for us, came to my city for an audition and stayed with me, an MT family, for a while. We didn't know when he was going to leave. He ate our food every day, missed his auditions. The worst of it was when he went into my parents' room and locked the door for an hour saying he was taking a bath. Turns out he was trying to fit in a camera. Never seen him since then. Story 55. Guy from work came over while I also had other friend from another friend group over. After being introduced to my other friend, he left to go to the toilet. He proceeded to spend nearly 30 minutes in my bathroom. We wondered what he was doing, but didn't dare to knock. When he came back, he told us he found the sound of the fan in my bathroom. My bathroom doesn't have any windows, hence the fan. So relaxing that he just sat on the toilet for a bit. Needless to say, the evening became kind of weird after that. Story 56. My roommate and I had a party at our apartment when I was 21. Well, I had a party and she mostly glared at me all that night. But anyway, woke up early and walked into the hallway to find one of my coworkers on his knees, forehead against the wall, taking a piss on the carpet. I asked what the hell he was doing, and he turns to me, eyes still closed, and drunkenly says, "Get out of the bathroom." We still chuckle about it. I couldn't be mad when he thought he was doing the right thing. Story 57. Wife's family stayed over the holidays, and in the morning while having my coffee, I watched her uncle cutting a toasted sesame bagel while walking through the kitchen like it's no big deal. Then he put that one on a plate and started cutting a ducking sesame bagel, just walking around slicing it. Who the hell does that? Story 58. Had a friend of my roommate fall on hard times. He was staying at a motel, so we offered our couch. I'm a bit too generous and trusting, so I told him we have plenty of food in the fridge if he needed anything. The next day, my entire gallon of milk was empty. I wasn't upset, just surprised. Story 59. A friend's husband and had taken a shower, leaving his clothing on the floor, or after he brushed his teeth and shaved, he picked up his used underwear and wiped the whole sink area down with his gross, dirty underwear. If I had not seen this with my own eyes, I would not have believed it. Who does that? Story 60. I had a huge pot of lentil stew with beef hot dogs cut up into pieces because I knew my kids would eat that. Invited this woman and her 3 kids over, and she literally picked out every single piece of hot dog to give to her kids. So I was left with a big pot of lentils. I was really financially hard up at the time, and I had 3 kids myself, so this was really difficult for me. Never invited her over again. What's the rudest thing a guest in your home has done? Story 1. We had 2 couples come to stay with us from overseas, and one of the couples spent the entire time arguing and getting into massive fights. This included screaming, crying, slamming doors, sulking, the works, for 3 weeks. It was the longest 3 weeks of my life. Story 2. Kid tried to cut my birthday cake and open my presents. The whole time his mom was laughing like it was some joke. I was ducking mad. I looked at the mom and she was like, "Oh, Jonathan, don't do that, sweetie." The ducking kid kept doing it. I grabbed him and the ducker was fighting me to open my presents. I crap you not. He just had to see what was inside. Then he tried to cut my cake, tell his mom to get the knife. He is ready to cut his cake. What pissed me off the most was that none of the parents did crap. My mom was in the kitchen, so she couldn't see what was happening. They all just sat there watching it happen. It was only after I was like, "Duck this, I am done. I don't care anymore." Ruined did my aunt do something. She didn't see it happen either, because she was helping my mom. The kid was 8 and I was 6. Story 3. I had a friend who used to jump onto furniture like lawn chairs and stuff. He claimed it wouldn't break it, but sometimes he did break stuff and he just complained it's not his fault, but that the furniture was too fragile. Story 4. Stole $70, shot in my bathroom, dropped lit cigarettes on my carpet, tried to justify it by saying they cleaned my sink. Story 5. Used my laptop to watch adult film and it ended up with tons of viruses. Took a big dump and put almost a whole roll of toilet paper in the toilet. Told my nephew his friend was never allowed back. Story 6. My 10-year-old distant cousin unwrapped 3 new bars of soap and flushed them down the toilet on the 3rd floor of my house. That night, we returned from dinner to find water dripping from the ceiling on the 1st floor. The 3rd floor bathroom had flooded, and the water leaked through the floor, dripped from the ceiling of the 2nd floor, and leaked though to the ceiling of the 1st floor. The whole mess cost thousands of dollars to repair. The kid confessed everything with great glee, and his mother just thought it was the funniest thing. Story 7. I was babysitting my neighbor's daughter. My neighbor was supposed to pick up the girl hours before and didn't answer any of my messages prior. I got the living room ready just in case if she was going to stay the night. It was close to midnight, and he finally came to pick her up. The dad ranged the bell, and when I answered the door, he was so wasted. He barged in and walked past me to go to kitchen and everything that was in his grasp. he literally destroyed. He went to the fridge and drank juice straight from the carton. He then walked back to the living room where his daughter was, then was spewing random crap to her, and mid-sentence that he vomited all over my couch and passed out after. Yes, he apologized and paid to clean the couch. The daughter at that time just started first grade, so she was probably 6 or 7. She's very smart, so she was aware of what was going on. Did I call CPS? Yes. He turned out to be an alcoholic, and it wasn't the first time he has done this. Story 8. So I was away for the weekend, and my roommate had some friends over for drinks. Problem is, when he drinks, he often blacks out, which he did before ensuring all his friends had left. In the morning, he discovers 2 friends stayed the night in my room. Not cool, but at least they didn't drink and drive, I guess. So not initially enraged, but when I finally make it home, I discover blood that is very clearly from period sex on my duvet cover. Not whoopsie started in the middle of the night puddle, but edge of the bed, on top, smeared around. And we're not party college kids, we're all mid-30s with real jobs and what one might assume is a little bit of respect. They're not welcome back. Story 9. My mom welcomed a faraway cousin or someone into our house. He walked into the kitchen where my dad was sitting watching TV and said, "And who the duck is this?" Story 10. Not my house, but my car. I don't have many rules for passengers when I'm driving, but there are 2 I will never budge on. 1. Wear your seatbelt. 2. Do not smoke in my car. I had just bought a car. It wasn't brand new, but I knew the previous and only owner, and I knew he was a car guy who took meticulous care of his cars inside and out. He wouldn't even sell me the car before he had given the engine a proper service. Within a week of getting the car, a friend asked for a lift to the train station. I knew he smoked, so as we walked to the car, I told him specifically to wait until we get to the station before he lights up. A 10-minute ride at most. I back out of the parking spot, drive to the exit of the parking lot, and as I check my left-hand side for oncoming cars, I hear from my right the distinctive sound of a lighter sparking up. Dude could not even ducking. Wait until we were out of the ducking car park before he just had to have his goddamn cigarette. I ask him what the hell he thinks he's doing, and he just looks at me and says, "Relax, it's not like it's a new car." Ducker ended up walking to the train station. Story 11. Male friend asked that my partner and I take ourselves and our 12-month-old daughter to a motel for a night whilst he uses our house to try his luck with one of our female friends we invited over for a game night. Story 12. Told their children ages 4 and 8 that they can put their feet with their shoes on our furniture. Their justification was that we let our dog get on the furniture. My husband told them no feet on our furniture previously, and this pissed the parent off. Story 13. I was going to post about the time I was really angered by friends of friends staying and emptying our bar fridge. It was fully stocked with beer. Emptying the wine fridge, also stocked. And a random bottle of Bailey's. None of these things go together. Heathens. And not offering to replace any of it, while making themselves completely at home, and even inviting guests over to view their place. But in reading these, I'm starting to feel much better that no meth was involved. Maybe it's time for me to let that grudge go. Story 14. A friend of a relative stayed with my parents for a week. The guy was Argentinian, late 50s. He was very old-fashioned, religious, etc. For example, he even told my parents that it was wrong that I was living with my boyfriend without being married. One day, he asked my mom to use her PC to check his email. Was in there for quite a while. Right. You guessed it. He was watching adult film, but I guess he didn't remember the website he wanted because he first Googled in Spanish, ladies with dark hair having sex, and a few variations of that. My mom found all that in her internet history, called him out. He tried to blame my then 16-year-old brother, who had his own PC, speaks mostly English, wouldn't have Googled in Spanish, and was away in a camping trip he wasn't welcomed back. Story 15. Mom's cousin visited with a friend. Cousin and friend were early 20s, old enough to be decent house guests. Mom ordered takeaway for the adults and put fish fingers and chips in the oven for us kids. Before the takeaway turned up, the guests decided they were hungry and ate the fish fingers without telling anyone. Mom opened the oven to find a tray of chips and an empty tray where the fish fingers should have been, and had to put more on so we wouldn't go hungry. It seems small now, but who the hell eats a child's dinner when theirs is less than 10 minutes away? Story 16. My really close friend brought his now ex-girlfriend that was super controlling over. While me and a few other friends were hanging out, about 30 minutes in, she decided that she's gonna go into my super white bathroom and dye her hair black. Not only this, but if you've never dyed your hair before, you must rinse your hair out to get excess dye out. She ended up staining my white counters, bathtub, shower, floor, 2 decorative towels, my carpet outside the bathroom, and my toilet. I was so irate, and I don't think she understood that you do not do this crap in someone else's house without asking them. Literally everyone that was over, including me, told her to get her now just showered naked ass out of my house. I was so done because she just stained so much crap that will not come out easy. It makes my blood boil thinking about it now. Story 17. My cousin and her daughter, who has Down syndrome, were visiting and staying with me in my home. Her kid pooped in a quilt, and for some reason my cousin rolled it up and shoved it in the closet in the guest room without telling me. I discovered it after they left. It was rolled up pretty good, so I didn't smell it immediately. Because my dog stood in front of the closet and barked non-stop until I came and found it. She was so offended by it and didn't stop barking until it was completely cleaned up. Haha. I called her and said, "I found the quilt from your bed rolled up with poop in the closet. What happened?" And she said, "Oh, daughter had an accident." Sorry. Story 18. I had a house guest invited by a roommate have a psychotic breakdown. He literally came into all our rooms, rummaged through our drawers, and left anything of value on top of the dresser or nightstand as if to announce that he went through it all. He found ways to expose himself and walked in on my roommates having sex. We kicked him out inside of 48 hours. It should have been sooner. We changed the locks. We actually all knew this guy and hosted him before, and he was great. We were cleaning house a few months later and found a bag of his hair. Story 19. My grandfather's cousin was staying with us for a week. He has a bladder problem and would refuse to wear adult diapers. What followed was him leaving a trail of pee, sometimes poo, when he walked around the house. Didn't take too long for my mother to ask his son to take him back home. Story 20. Picked up my very small poodle, held her on her back with 2 hands over a 10-foot balcony. If my dog would have even wiggled, she would have fallen. Story 21. A friend of mine demanded that my dad give her his iPhone charger. Not to borrow, to keep. He politely declined, and she huffed off muttering about how he was too old for an iPhone anyway. He was 49 at the time. She now wonders why he doesn't talk to her. Story 22. Came over for lunch, assumed they'd be spending the night at my place. Got mad when I told them that the invitation was for lunch only. Ah, family. Story 23. A few friends and I were having some drinks last summer when a guy we know showed up at my house uninvited with a friend of his, who was so drunk he immediately passed out on my couch. This now sleeping dude drove both of them to my house. Guy continues to get plastered and do coke, complained about the music we were listening to, and kept trying to put his own terrible punk band on. He cornered my wife and demanded she change her shirt because he has beef with the singer and the band on her shirt. Refused to sit in anything other than a broken chair that we had to put in another room when he went to the bathroom. Then complained when it was 6 a.m. and we said we're going to bed, waking his drunk friend up saying, "I guess we're getting kicked out." Then they both left in drunk dude's car. Story 24. Not in my house, but my uncle's. My brother and his now ex-girlfriend were over at my uncle's house watching a movie. From what I was told, my brother had his girlfriend laying down on his lap and he was plucking her armpit hair and putting it on the couch. Story 25. My boyfriend invited a couple dudes over while I was at work because we only have a 1-bedroom apartment and I don't always enjoy sitting there watching them game. It was considerate. Anyways, he was asleep and they were gone when I got home since I work third shift. I noticed my new bathroom mat was discolored and assumed it was from shoes and didn't closely observe. Anyways, I made him look at it with me when he got up because I was a bit mad since it was brand new. Upon further observation, we came to the conclusion that before leaving, his friend wiped crap all over my new bathroom mat. It turned out to be brown finger streaks across the whole thing. Threw that out immediately. The toilet paper was readily available, BTW. They are not allowed in the apartment anymore. And it was weird because they weren't on bad terms. They actually wanted to hang out again. Story 26. Insisted on making dinner. Burned the steaks. Insisted on making hamburgers. I told him I didn't like onions. Made the hamburgers with chunks of onion. I tried to eat one, but chunks of raw onions is not something I want to eat. He made beans in a crock pot, but didn't refrigerate them overnight. Just left them out in the crock pot. Plugged it in the next morning and let them cook all day the second day. Claimed if there was any bacteria in there, cooking it killed it all. Repeated for a week. Spouse and I ate the beans the first night and refused any leftovers. We had record heat for days on end, so we ran the air conditioning. He would not quite shut the door to the outside, leaving a small crack, letting the cool air out and his smoking in. Every time I passed by, I'd shut the door till it latched. Worse, we had indoor-only cats and they would occasionally escape because he could not understand that the door needed to be shut. He left open potatoes chip bags in the pantry. It wasn't any one thing. Although food poisoning and endangering the cats were pretty close, it was the conglomeration of a lot of little things. Story 27. We had a baby shower at my house. My aunt is the landlord and was also in attendance. At the time, there was a no dogs allowed policy. A guest brought their chihuahua and let it loose in the house. I thought my aunt was going to have a heart attack, and the dog was scared by all the people and couldn't be caught until after the party. They never even asked if it was okay to bring their dog. Story 28. I forgot about the girl I hadn't seen in years showing up to my parents' house unannounced. I was so happy to see her. So she came home with me, and we ate dinner and caught up on life. She stayed the night since it was so late. The next day she confessed she was just released from jail and had nowhere to go. We tried getting rid of her for weeks. Then one day we stopped in Walgreens for something and she stole stuff. After that, my grandpa told her to suck off a trucker if she had to, but she was leaving no matter what. I dropped her off at the train station. She called me 20 minutes later, but I refused to answer. Haven't heard from her since. Story 29. Neighbor and my dad were talking in the living room when they both watched his son knock chocolates all over an expensive carpet. The neighbor then let my 60-year-old dad get on his hands and knees to fish around 20 chocolates without helping, and continuing the conversation as though it hadn't happened. This was the same neighbor who let his son knock glass baubles off our Christmas tree and didn't apologize. It was the same neighbor who asked my mom to pick up bottled water and wine from the shop for a party she wasn't even invited to. It was all the subtle things that make you think, you're a bit of a banana, aren't you? Then, it was the same neighbor who lived above us that didn't come around to look at the damage his broken boiler had done when the water drenched our very large bookcase and then seeped to the floor below to our kitchen. He and his wife were the same neighbors who asked us, the first time we had met, when we were moving out because they wanted to buy the entire house. He tried to buy it 5 years later, but we rejected his bid, waiting for a higher bidder, which came the next day. Story 30. When I was living with my ex, who was an alcoholic and had a lot of mental issues, one of his friends from his past asked to stay over for a day or two. They drank a lot. I woke up in the middle of the night with the friend standing in our bedroom, pissing against the bedroom window. When I woke up my ex, he didn't think it was that big of a deal. That is the day I packed my crap and left. Story 31. I had been on a few dates with this guy. One night after we went out, he dropped me off at my apartment and we were talking. The conversation was getting long and I was super tired, so I told him I was going to go to sleep and it was time for him to go. He insisted on walking me up to my bedroom, which I thought was a little weird. Plus my room was super messy at the time, and I was embarrassed. I said it a bunch of times, but he really didn't seem to get the message that I was just gonna stay in the living room until he left. So I said that I had just gotten really tired and I would just fall asleep on the couch. Maybe that would get him to leave. No, it prompted him to go upstairs into my bedroom, take the comforter off my bed, and bring it downstairs to the couch for me. I never went out with him again. Story 32. Left their drunk girlfriend in my house emotionally distraught. Charged back in and was very aggro with my roommate, and then proceeded to decide they were entitled to sleeping in my bed and getting drunker. Wasn't in town to defend my house and was very angry to find evidence of someone sleeping in my room, much less my bed. Story 33. We had a party at our house. Guests ended up using the bathroom in our bedroom as well, because of lines on the guest toilet. We have had one of those only attached to the wall and no legs to support sinks on top of a slim, long shelf kind of thing. They sat on the damn thing and broke it. I was beyond belief how someone could sit on something that looks, feels, and very obviously shows it is not made to carry weight and is not supported. Now it has legs. Story 34. I was having a Halloween party 4 or 5 years ago, and this girl, I crap you not, just started smashing the pumpkins we had as interior decorations. Like, excuse me, what is wrong with you? Story 34. They brought a hookah and spilled the hot coals on my carpet. They then yelled at me to clean it up. That was the last time I ever allowed anything close to a party at my house. Story 36. Stole $100. But this story has a happy ending. When I was young, I had 3 friends over, all of them brothers. The oldest was my age, the middle was a couple years younger, same age as my brother, and they had brought their youngest brother with them. He was a little Karen. Well, that day my dad let me hang on to a $100 bill because I thought it was cool and had never seen one. I showed it off to my friends and left it on my side table. I didn't even notice it go missing. Well, here's how the story goes. My friends had left, and when they got near their house, the youngest brother pulled out the $100 and said, "Hey guys, look what I took." The 2 older brothers got pissed. They dragged him crying all the way back to my house, handed me the $100 that I hadn't even realized was missing, and forced him to apologize. Friends of integrity right there. Story 37. Checking my cabinets. Why are you going to someone's house and checking what they have stored away? I found someone sneaking into my room and checking my drawers. Story 38. Back when I was living with a bunch of hipsters, friends of my best friend, and we all went to college together and they were best friends with my ex, etc., like 9 or 10 summers ago. They hosted their living room as a venue for traveling bands. That was cool. Never had too much of a problem with that, as I had my own room I could, and often, recluse to. I kept my food in the kitchen with theirs, but my junk snacks, they stayed in my room. Came home from an awful night of work and a show was going on. Living room is packed with dreads, red Solo cups, accordions, and the weird lulls between sets where someone just sticks their guitar up to the speaker for the woo feedback. I go to my room and half of my made with real sugar Pepsi can were taken out of the 12-pack. And worse, they took my Star Crunch. You know, the big size ones, the pleasurable cosmic crunch that has sated my sweet tooth back into nostalgic days of youth where every day seemed promising. There was like 2 left. Yeah, They got into some of my weed, and I never did count my loose change on the dresser to see if it was all accounted for, but I'll never forget that box of Star Crunch. Story 39. She acted like an entitled restaurant patron in my home. She spent the night because her divorce was uncomfortable and contentious. She didn't want to go home to her husband's house and didn't have any family in this country, so she was couch surfing. My selection of tea wasn't big enough, and the G-jelly I had wasn't as nice as an assortment of jams. She ate the pancakes despite them not being her favorite, and was really surprised I didn't have a waffle iron. She didn't complain about the breakfast sausage, and I did the eggs for her, my husband and me, as we each wanted them anyway. Then she raided our pantry for snacks to take with her before she left. She wasn't couch surfing. She was wearing out her welcome very quickly at every friend's house she went to. She was a nightmare. She was just all take and no give in general, and stopped reaching out when my husband and I stopped giving. Story 40. Went through the pantry like it was theirs. Didn't ask or anything. First time over, walked right into the kitchen, found the pantry, opened it, and grabbed the family-sized bag of Doritos and started eating it. Story 41. Came to a house party and had a shower in the middle of it. Washed his hair with vinegar in our one bathroom. Would not leave. The next day until 40 minutes after I had asked. Tried steam cleaning around them. Finally breathed out a sigh of relief, went to shower my hangover away, put on a towel. The vinegar. Nearly spewed. Story 42. I was living with a friend for a couple of years in a nice big apartment. Mutual friend of ours was splitting up with his missus, so we offered him a place to crash for 2 weeks. And if he needed or wanted to stay longer, he could rent the room. At the time all this is happening, I'm working overseas, but my flatmate is telling me it is all sweet. Remind both my flatmate and MF that if his dog, Samoyed, is there, to close my bedroom doors, I'm allergic. About 6 weeks later and a couple of days before I get home, my flatmate says he hasn't had any rent payments from MF, and that he has had a couple for random people over that neither of us know. I'm not happy at this point. Call MF and have words. He tries to convince me that flatmate said it was okay to have friends over. While on phone, I can hear his dog. I remind him it better not be in my room. He says that it's going back to his ex that day and it's been nowhere near my room. Anyway, I get home. Place is a ducking mess. Dog hair everywhere, a car in my garage space and 2 in the visitor spots. Stains on the carpet from where dog crap has been picked up but not cleaned. Kitchen is a mess. Go to my room and his ducking dog has clearly used my bed to sleep on. He tries to tell me I'm mistaken and it must be my flatmate's cat. I ask him if he thinks I'm an idiot, as Samoyed hair is pretty distinct. I throw all my sheets and pillows out as I start to get allergies and no way I can sleep with all that dog hair around. I go to the bathroom and I had to clean the toilet before I was willing to take a crap in it. I don't know how the hell someone lets it get that bad. Anyway, I start doing a bit of digging and find out he owes a bunch of people money. Some of these people are less than pleasant characters. My flatmate finds out similar information as well, so the list is getting quite long. All 3 of the cars are borrowed. One of the cars in the visitor spot, he broke and is supposed to be fixing it. It's about this time we also find out his ex is pregnant and that he had a sex with 21-year-old car model. Anyway, I decided I want him gone. I think he realized I wasn't happy, so he starts avoiding me. I really want to get all the keys back off him, especially the garage, and get him out. I finally managed to be home the same time he is, but now he has locked himself in the bedroom. My flatmate gets home and we tell him to GDFO. He starts begging and carrying on. Needs one more night, blah, blah, blah. I say, no, get your crap and go. He starts packing. 20 minutes later, he says he wants to go to a mental health ward. I tell him he should get his stuff first, because I'm throwing out everything that he doesn't take with him tonight. Finally get him out. Takes him another week to get the cars from the visitor spot. Later, find a thread on a car forum where even more people have been burned by him in one way or another. Later go on to find out that he did the same thing in the Philippines years ago as well. Story 43. My grandma brought my aunt's badly behaved, non-house trained dog with them on a visit. They had all been specifically told the dog could not come to the house. When they showed up with it, we found an old play crib and said it needed to stay in there for the duration. My grandma would pick it up and let it loose whenever she could. About 2 weeks after they left, we realized that the dog had fleas and we had massive infestations that infected all of our 5 dogs and 4 cats, caused scars on all of us from bites, and took almost 3 years to eradicate completely. Story 44. I gave up my bedroom to my stepson and his girlfriend when they visited. I am a non-smoker, and it's literally the only room in the house that is smoke-free. I asked her to step outside to smoke, not a big inconvenience since there's a sliding door that goes from the bedroom to the lanai. I also asked her not to take food to the bedroom because ants are a real problem in Florida. I could smell when she lit up a cigarette, but I didn't say crap to her. Figured she'd walk outside to put it out. Went into the room to grab shoes, and I noticed the little porcelain tray wasn't on my nightstand, so I looked around for it. It was shoved under the bed with her cigarette butt in it. along with my cream-colored throw rug and a bath towel. Turns out she took chocolate milk to the bedroom, knocked it over onto the rug, then grabbed a towel to try to clean it up. Instead of bringing it to the laundry room, she wadded everything up and hid it under the bed. I went off and she convinced him to leave 3 days early. That's the last time I give my room to the fat, spoiled Karen. Story 45. When I was beginning junior high, my sister went off to France for a study abroad program. And as part of the program, we also became the host family to an exchange student from Japan. She was really nice, and I had no problem with her, especially because I got to sleep in the gaming room for 6 months while she got my old room. Except for one thing, she ate all the damn cookies. Now our family likes cookies as much as the next, but my grandma would come over every Wednesday and bake a fresh batch of cookies for the kids when they got home from school, and as I'm sure many of you know, Grandma's cooking is always best. The problem was, if there were any cookies uneaten by the end of the day, the exchange student would eat them all in the middle of the night while Skyping her friends back in Japan. Without fail, I could always hear in the middle of the night her loud footsteps as she stomped down the stairway that shared a wall with the game room I was sleeping in. The unmistakable sound of the cookie jar opening and the harrowing sound of the bottom of the jar being skied as she delves for the last one. It got to be such a problem that we started asking Grandma to keep some cookies hidden so that we could eat them the next day. She was great in every other regard and had a great time herself. But goddamn, the only thing I think about when I think about her is not the fact that I literally slept on the couch for 6 months, but the look of an empty cookie jar on Thursday morning. Story 46. This story, oh my. We stopped talking to this guy about a year prior because he lied about really insane stuff and is a really high-functioning alcoholic, so we would never know what he would or wouldn't remember doing. One day recently, my boyfriend and I are upstairs, laying in bed on our day off, watching TV or playing Fallout or whatever, and I get a text from this guy. We're just gonna call him Drunky, McClyer Pants. Text from Drunky. Hey, I just got mugged down the street and they took all my stuff and beat me up really, really bad. Your house was the closest, so I came here to rest for a bit. I'm in your living room. So my boyfriend goes down and is basically like, hey man, I guess you can chill for a bit, but we're busy today and we're about to leave soon too. My boyfriend was really frustrated because Drunky did not look as though he had been beat up and still had his bag with him. And my boyfriend decided to make a drink with his really nice whiskey since we have to deal with this on our beloved day off. My boyfriend came upstairs for a few minutes and we decided to kind of make it look like we were getting ready to leave so we could shuffle Drunky towards the door. I'm in the bathroom brushing my hair and I hear my boyfriend just start raging. And this is what I hear. BF, where did you put my whiskey? D, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't move it. There's a glass of whiskey at your feet. D, oh, I guess I had a glass. Well, where is it then, Drunky? D, finally hands over a bottle of whiskey. My boyfriend walks into the bathroom and holds up the bottle of whiskey that we had taken maybe 2 shots out of that, has maybe 1 shot left in it. So we kick Drunky out and I start cleaning up the empty shooters he left on my table. He brought those with him. And I step on my living room rug and it's sticky and wet. So after some inspection, I found that Drunky didn't drink the whole bottle. He just spilled it on my floor and didn't clean it up and lied about it. I honestly hope Drunky gets help one day, but I kinda doubt he ever will because that's one of his biggest lies. Story 47. Oh, I have a good one. Was my 21st birthday party, nothing big, just some friends and family over. My mom's best friend brings her daughter who is a year younger than me over. Also, don't mind, we get along okay. Not great friends, but grew up together so we know each other pretty well. Turns out, her FWB ended their relationship that day and she hasn't taken it well. Gets super drunk and cries most of the night. You can see her crying in the background of most of the pictures taken that night. She finally has enough that she wants to lay down, tell her to go to the guest room. Goes to my room instead. About an hour or so later, all the party can hear are huge bangs from inside the house. No one is sure what's going on, so I go check. She's has spewed everywhere, and my room is crying. She's taken her shirt off and spew and piled in her lap. Her mom comes up behind me and is just lost for words. At this point, Spewface looks up and starts yelling at her mom, blaming her mom for the whole situation. Her dad ended up helping her outside and hosed her down in the yard in full view of the guests. Couldn't even be mad because the whole situation was just sad. Her mom ended up cleaning her mess up while crying. It was a pretty crafty night altogether. Story 48. I had a collection of $1 casino chips, one from every casino I had been to. A housemate invites some people over, and a guy sees them sitting somewhere and starts playing with them. I figure the guy likes to fidget, so it's no big deal. Guy ended up taking a bunch of mismatched casino chips, and even apparently tried buying a drink at the bar with them. Luckily, one of the other guys he went out with got them back to me, but seriously? Who does that? Story 49. Not really a house guest. More like the plumber we called to fix a leak. A leak in the apartment my fiancé and I were about to move into. The apartment we hadn't even spent a single night in. He walked into the bathroom, locked the door, took a crap. came back out to tell me the flush was working properly, then took a swig from one of the whiskey bottles I was unpacking. Story 50. My girlfriend at the time had a friend over. Her friend lit up a cigarette in the middle of our lounge room and started smoking and flicking the ash on our carpet. I didn't even know what to do. I don't speak to either of them now. Story 51. Opened a Chateau Margaux, 2008, valued at $800 in Japan, which was gifted to me by my father-in-law for my daughter's birth, to be opened on her 20th birthday. Supposedly thought it was okay to skip the decent wines on the counter and rummage in a closet, remove the ribbons, ignore the card, and pour it out for everyone. Story 52. This was actually at my sister's house, but we have a sister-in-law. I guess she married our Bill after our sister died, and I don't know what else to call her. And she is dreadful. She flossed her teeth in the living room and left it on the carpet. I found it later that day when I was lying on the ground in front of the TV. During the same visit, she changed in the room I was staying in because we were going swimming and took that opportunity to look through my suitcase. She was either just being nosy, looking for my prescription pain medication, or both. Joke's on her, I hid it before she came over. So instead, she just stole the eye drops I'd left out for my dad. We can never call her on anything because if we do, she refuses to let us see our dead sister's children.